Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. So it looks like the war has not escalated from last night, but we are still not in the clear, as you're going to find out from this video, as well as new information coming in that the United States military was actually warned of these attacks, in which we're going to get into, plus a lot more, as well as really disturbing photos showing former U.S. President Bill Clinton with international child trafficking, pimp, and extortion racket for intelligence agency Ghislaine Maxwell, as well as being pictured with a sex slave. A story that cannot be ignored, that of course we will be going over in this independent media broadcast that is brought to you by you guys supporting us. And the best way to support us is by checking out our store, which you could get by clicking the link in my Instagram bio or in the description below under Instagram Luke We Are Change, where you could get our latest shirts, hats, sweaters, mugs, whatever you could wish of to show your discontent for the current idiocracy-filled social political landscape, which really is pretty ridiculous. I wear a lot of these clothes. They are great conversation starters and also a great way to support independent media. The link is in the description below. Thank you everyone for purchasing and supporting us with just simply wearing a hat. Now, of course, the biggest news, the eyes of the world were on the White House today as Donald Trump gave a speech about what the United States will be doing after the attacks by Iranian missiles on U.S. military installations in Iraq. Now, this is a very serious situation, as even Russian politicians are warning the world that this kind of tit-for-tat reprisal between the United States and Iran can spark a nuclear war. And luckily today, U.S. President Donald Trump decided not to aggressively escalate things, and his speech, even though it was filled with neocon intelligence agency deep state lies, luckily it won't be furthering the current conflict and escalations that we have been seeing increase. But it will be continuing the same American foreign policy doctrine that has been followed by Trump, that has been followed by his predecessors, Obama and Bush, and still it creates a powder keg situation that could go off at any moment and time. But honestly, Donald Trump didn't look his best during the speech, even slurring some of his words, sniffling, and not really having the presence that he usually has during his speech. While, of course, he was reading predominantly off a teleprompter, which he doesn't usually do. He also revealed during his speech that there will be more economic sanctions or economic warfare raged on by the United States against Iran. He also announced that the United States is building new hypersonic weapons, which again prove that the clear winner throughout all of this is the military-industrial complex that yet again will be continued to be pumped with taxpayer money because of the uncertainty of this situation, with still anything possible here. During the speech, Donald Trump also blamed the previous administration for giving Iran money, which they did, but saying that this money was used for the missiles. And in reality, we have to understand here, Iran does have a lot of support from, of course, Russia and China, specifically with China buying a lot of its energy resources, which finances and still keeps the country alive, regardless of the sanctions that the United States puts on Iran. Now again, I am very skeptical of everything told to us by our government, because we should always be very skeptical of liars that have a record of creating wars out of fabricated lies. Donald Trump also during the speech talked about continuing to fight ISIS, but again, people need to be reminded here that the operations against ISIS actually stopped because of this U.S. assassination of this Iranian general. And personally, just like commentator Michael Tracy says, that when there is diplomacy like there was with North Korea, and even the announcement of troop withdrawals in Syria, which never happened, that these actions do deserve to be supported, but the current state that we are in is a direct result of dangerous escalations that did happen from the White House, and we cannot forget that. So, sorry, I'm not that ecstatic about someone bringing us to a really bad place and then slowly taking us out of it. That's not something that, in my opinion, should be celebrated. Because with the U.S. troops still, right now, in Iraq, and with many Iranian-influenced Shia groups in the region, we are still headed towards a collision course of more dangerous escalations that bring us to war. And I know there's been a lot of pushback about people attacking me because I've been warning about war for a while. One, we already are at war, especially proxy wars with the two sides fighting against each other. That's already happening on a global scale in Yemen and Syria and many other places that I can mention. But two, most importantly, it's not naive to be worried about this, especially if you understand human history and how usually human civilization is usually at war. It is something that we should always be on the lookout and always try to prevent. Again, with more sanctions, with more U.S. troops and forces, with more weapons being sent down there, this is only going to escalate the situation. I think it's very important to be critical of the current administration and also critical of course, the other side as well. Since what it looks like the Iranians did last night was a kind of symbolic pounding of the sand to save face PR-wise, as we are getting information from many different sources, especially Middle Eastern news sources, that it was Iran that warned Iraq and could have actually even warned the United States before these airstrikes actually happened, with some theories going as far as to say that many of the missiles missed their targets intentionally to create somewhat of a ceremonial retaliation, which of course wouldn't escalate situations from here. Now, Donald Trump has said that it was only because of an early detection system that the U.S. troops were able to be warned, but because of everything we're hearing, especially from both sides, I think it is clear that U.S. troops had some kind of advanced knowledge, and actually both of these scenarios could be true. That yes, Iran warned Iraq or even the United States, and yes, the United States also had satellite capabilities that showed them the possibility of this happening. Now, what's really interesting about these attacks, and I do believe they were the kind of PR pounding of the sand kind of symbolic retaliatory attacks, because of the statements that came from Iranian officials afterwards, specifically saying, this is our attack, do not escalate, do not respond to this, or Iran will be attacking Israel and even possibly Dubai from here. Now, Iranian state news is reporting that throughout the attacks, 80 Americans have been killed there, and that there are 200 people that have been wounded from these missile strikes, while, of course, the United States says that 0 casualties and 0 injuries occurred from these airstrikes. It is important to note that we have yet gotten any legitimate real footage from the ground about what actually happened here, but we did get these satellite photos that do show minor destruction at the base that was specifically targeted by Iran. Now, these Iranian missiles are known to be very accurate, and from what I'm hearing, the receptions from Iranians is that this was satisfactory towards a lot of the citizens living there as a form of retaliation, since again, many of them are being told that 80 Americans did die here, which again directly contradicts the U.S. narrative saying that no one died here. But again, it is important to note here that Iran did shut off the internet, and that the possibility of many Iranians getting the full truth, getting a different side of the story, is going to be very difficult, which does need to be understood here. And even yesterday, during our live broadcast, I said we are still waiting to get all the information. But very interestingly, MSNBC didn't even wait and decided to puppeteer Iranian state-run media talking points saying that there was 30 Americans killed. Which again, all of this looks like an attack that de-escalated the situation, which luckily Iran acted the way it did, and luckily Trump responded the way he did, that for right now de-escalated the situation. But trust me, with U.S. troops still in the region, with other Shia-inspired rebel groups all throughout the region, with military installations all throughout the region, it's only a matter of time until there are more escalations. And I would really keep an eye during the early spring to see a lot of these things pop off, which, again, I think it's inevitable to happen, and sadly will continue to happen. But throughout all of the chaos, we also got news that a Ukrainian passenger jet crashed in Tehran, in Iran, that killed 82 Iranians, 11 Ukrainians, 63 Canadians, 4 Afghanis, and 3 Germans, 3 British nationals, and 10 Swedish people who were on board the civilian passenger plane, which many people point to a possible accidental shoot down by Iran, which Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is vowing to get answers about, since we are also getting information that Iran is also refusing to hand over the black box as we are speaking right now. This is a developing important international situation that, of course, we also will be following very closely. But in related aviation news, we have an update on the story of the decade, and that, of course, is the Jeffrey Epstein alleged suicide and mass cover-up of child trafficking, extortion, intelligence operations, with new photos being released right now by The Sun showing Bill Clinton with Ghislaine Maxwell on the private jet that is known as the Lolita Express, that had beds in it, and has many witnesses coming forward saying that there have been many violent criminal actions taken place in. Astonishing photos that should absolutely shock everyone, especially with all the major allegations and witnesses coming forward describing the horrible atrocities committed by Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Bill Clinton is even pictured with one of the sex slaves with his arm around her, which of course should raise concerns and alarms for everyone. Now, Shantae Davis, who is now 40, who was pictured with Bill Clinton, is actively in litigation against the Epstein estate. And again, we need to be reminded that Bill Clinton many times ditched his Secret Service to be on the Lolita Express, which should raise a lot of eyebrows since, of course, Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, and many other people accused of horrible crimes were also in association with all of these individuals. And even though a lot of these trips are still a mystery to exactly what happened, it is important to note that a lot of questions do need to be asked here, especially with all the inconsistencies to what actually was happening here. All of this information is coming out as now 3 other new Jeffrey Epstein victims are coming out and saying specifically that, quote, "We weren't prostitutes or whores, we were children." And that's a very important point that a lot of people in the media have been missing here, and that is the fact that thousands of children were abused here with the direct help and assistance of law enforcement, federal officials, government officials, court officials that participated in this international child trafficking extortion operation that wouldn't be possible without the biggest authorities in our society participating in them. Now, all of this news is also coming on the heels of Harry and Meghan quitting the royal family, which maybe has something to do with all the pedophiles in their family, but who knows? So yeah, that is the news for today. If you thought I was wrong, let me know why in the comment section below. I always appreciate the feedback, the commentary, even some of the snarky responses. It always keeps me on my toes. It's good to debate. It's good to have a conversation. It's good to open up a dialogue and be able to hear all sides of the story. I hope I presented you with both sides of the story, and if you think I did, share this video with your friends and family members, because YouTube definitely won't. They most likely will confirm this video under manual review for demonetization. But I'm still here. I'm still going. I still have a voice because of you, and this is why I want to say I love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.